Hello guys, and welcome to another David Zimaleta. In today's video I have Ben with me, and we're actually getting ready to work on his Sprinter van. This is a 2003 Sprinter van. It is a little bit different than 2004 through 2006. We need to change transmission fluid completely. We will be dropping a valve body down and then cleaning up the speed sensors. So we got our work cut out for us. So anyways guys, enjoy the video. Okay guys, the next thing is we're going to be draining the transmission fluid pan, but I believe this is a T30. But I do want to show you, this is what the pan looks like, and we're actually going to need this pan for some other stuff. I'm going to use it kind of like a little storage bin. Okay guys, I'm going to try to approach this by removing it with this here. Let's see what it does with this tool. Yes, it's good now. So that helped me save that bolt. So now I'm just gonna do it by hand. I don't want to get my tool dirty. Okay. So the next step is I want to go ahead and actually remove the rest of the bolts. So I'm going to be using another transmission pan as a place to hold my bolts. And then this other transmission pan, I'm just going to let it drop inside. So I'm going to use a couple of them in the front. Well, towards the back actually. So fluid's gonna naturally start leaking out of that seal. Okay. And remove these two. Now I'm gonna remove that one towards the corner. Okay, now it's really starting to come down because it's more loose at this corner, and that's actually what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this one. I'm just gonna leave it a little bit like that, tilt it over, let it leak out. So that's kind of like used as a little prop. From what I could see, the transmission fluid is quite dirty right now. So let's go ahead and actually remove the final. Okay. So I poured out all the transmission fluid. Now I want to pull out the actual pan itself. Okay, let's take a look then. Okay, we do have a lot of buildup on the metal there, and you could definitely see how much transmission fine powder is inside here. That's what I'm gonna call it. So let's see, I'm gonna balance it on here but keep it from falling. Alright guys, I hope you can see good, because we're getting ready to start removing the valve body. And the very first thing we're gonna do is we're going to remove the 30-pin connector, just right there. So we have to basically put that down and then out, and we'll just secure that over there. Now we have to take a number 7mm and basically get rid of that. So guys, here's the 30-pin connector. It's right now in this position, and then that's the bolt. You need to basically put a 7-inch. It needs to be kind of like a deep socket. This alone will not reach it. So basically, we have to find the bolt. I did find it. So just need to get it loose. You always have to replace the 13-pin connector when you're doing your transmission fluid change. It's very important. Also, if you're trying to remove the valve body, which we are in this video, you definitely need to do that. These 13-pin connectors, even though they're, you know, plastic and stuff, they get sealed very good. I just want to make sure that I don't damage anything, and so like I definitely feel that it is loose. Now we must pull it out. I'm surprised how stuck it was in there. Very surprised. So this rubber gasket flew out. Guys, this is a new style 13-pin connector, and this is an older style 13-pin connector. These rubber things, they're very loose and they cause leaks to happen. These are a lot better. They're a little bit more springy. They're just a little bit better than those. These actually are very common to leak. I mean, look, it's like I'm barely pulling on it and it's already coming down, like something with that. With this one, I have to actually literally pull on it, but if I'm just going over it with fingers like this, it's not coming out. To install it, you want to make sure it's in down position like that, and it's towards the bottom of your corner, and that's when you're gonna have to start installing it. You can only install it one way. You can't really install it like the wrong ways. Like, these have to line up. So just kind of have a feel for it, carefully put it in. Lubricate this with oil if you have to, because sometimes they're challenging to install. So everything just needs to be perfect. So here's the valve body. This is the filter. Needs to be installed just like that. Should have left it alone. It's built on my flashlight. But I have really no choice in leaving it alone, because I must remove stuff. I got a oily hand now, but I'm not letting that stop me. So basically, the bolts that I'm removing, they're here. Gotta remove 5 over here, and I gotta remove these right here. This little lever, it needs to line up when you're actually installing that transmission. But so right now I'm gonna show you a little closer access. I'm not wearing any protection. That plastic piece, hopefully you guys seen it, that needs to line up, and that needs to line up. Everything needs to go on exactly the same. If you don't do it just right, you're in for some trouble. So right now I'm just gonna go to town. I'm gonna start removing all of these bolts. It's a total of 9 of them. And I'm going to leave one towards the front and one in the middle. There's actually 10 bolts. Excuse me guys, I made a mistake in the math. It's just there's 6 on one end and 4 on the other. Having a torque or impact, you know, some kind of wrench, it helps. As you can see, it's a piece of cake, me having to remove this. I'm gonna leave that loose a little bit. Let it do its thing. Uh-oh. I have to fish it out. It's being held down by only one screw, so let's go ahead and get that one out. Just a little bit loose. Angle it. Let it come out. Okay, I don't have a lot of patience, so it's coming out. I don't want to damage anything. Oh my god. It's somewhat heavy. So this is going to be where I'm going to service it. This is the speed sensor, and that's a speed sensor. They do have a little bit of grime on them, as you can see. They're made out of magnet, so all I have to do is clean them. That is all. See, as I'm wiping it, it's really black, because it is some buildup on there. Off, there's no problem with having to remove them, but it's not unnecessary either. So these are your solenoids, and they're being held by just a single bolt right there. So they're basically doing their job, pumping the fluids, and there's another one. There's 2 more over here. So we don't need to mess with them. You only need to remove them if you're replacing a conductor plate. But I want to demonstrate where this 13-pin connector goes. It goes in here. And basically, let's see, if we twist it over, this is what you're going to be dealing with. You're dealing with 2 triangles up top, and you're dealing with a smaller groove up there. So this is how you would install it. In this position right here. So if you try to install it any other way, it's just not going to work. So the very first seal, it seals the actual conductor plate. The second one seals for the transmission. That's the hole. And then to pull it out. But as you can see, it's not going to fit any other way. You need to basically align it just right, or you're not going to fit. Now, you will struggle with this piece. If this is in wrong alignment, you will not be able to install the 13-pin connector. You're just gonna roll it back and forth. Oh, like it just doesn't go. Yeah. It's really crazy. Like, this is really hard to install here. If you're not just right, then it also has a shape inside. You see how it looks like?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all really.
You have to match it exactly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, is this some of the stuff over engineered, would you say?
Yes.
I think
most definitely.
Yeah.
That needs to align.
Jeez.
And you see, look, you see how this is all moving like that?
Sure.
Well, somebody's not paying attention. They removed it with it being here. Well, now it went inside from naturally type of thing.
Wow.
And they're installing it, they're aligning this metal pin They put it in gear, everything's correct, but guess what? They don't align this one. Transmission's not gonna shift.
Wow.
I had my viewers write to me sometimes. They're like, "Oh, I did all that, like you said, but it doesn't shift." I'm like, "Did you do that?
Yeah.
What plastic piece?
Yep.
That?"
When they put it in, it was pushed in. They just never.
Yeah, it was like somewhere like here, you know.
Yeah.
But it naturally, look what's it doing. It slides in. And this one stays in place, and that is if they didn't pull it off. There's two bolts that look the same. You pull that off. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But then you have to put it on. You don't need to pull that off, you know.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So technically, I think it had enough fresh air, don't you think? Let's put it back.
I think she's ready.
Oh, man.
She walked the dog.
The only thing is, it's like, it's so annoying when the stuff drips on your face.
Oh, yeah. You need like a little shake.
You know, I installed a transmission by putting it on my body, and I lift it up into place. It was so difficult.
My first transmission I pulled out was one of the first original Honda Civics.
Yes.
And the transmission, you could literally, I got under the car, my brother unbolted it, and it laid on my chest, and I slid out.
Really?
On my chest, yeah, tiny little thing.
So now...
70, like a 79, 80, 81 Civic.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
High school days.
High school days. Yeah. Well, that's when I started just learning how to work on these things from a shop class.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
I'm just gonna watch just for shits and giggles. I'm just gonna...
Yeah. Have fun. Oh, man. This is a workout.
That is, because like I say, it gets in your face, you get that in your eye.
Yes. Okay, we are in proper alignment. I don't know if we can find the bolts.
Good arm workout, right?
The hardest work is done.
Yeah. It's in.
So that is in. That is in. Everything's looking delicious.
Yeah.
By the way, that's where the torque converter is. You have to pop them plastic pieces off.
Okay.
And then we'll have to spin at the front of the engine.
Ah.
And that's how to get it on. But I don't want to get my hands contaminated, so I'm going to put the rest of the bolts in.
Yep.
Plus, I keep them from forgetting where they go.
Yep.
This is that's an $1,800 job.
Oh, easy.
It is. That's what they charge for.
Yeah.
Well, one thing's for sure, if you complicate things overly, then you're not even gonna attempt to try to do stuff. This is not rocket science.
Nah.
By the way, I'm not putting him in really tightly, despite it sounds like it's just this hammer thing. Once it gets any resistance, it starts doing a little thing, but it's very minimum type of stuff. It's meant to drive screws in, technically.
Yeah.
I use it for my drywall.
Oh yeah.
But I do have this. Oh my god, my neck. It feels like it's hanging too much.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to make it tight and just a little bit more.
Yep.
Tight a little bit more. This is aluminum.
Oh yeah. Easy to take the threads out, man.
I'm doing it the old school way.
Oh, yeah. By feel.
By feel, yeah.
I do the same thing.
You can't go crazy with it though.
No.
Yeah.
You gotta know where to stop.
Yes. I broke enough, and if you know, bolts not on the transmission, but I broke bolts, starter bolts, by over tightening it.
The old easy out.
Man, when I was like 18, that would be so disappointing because
you're just wrenching them.
Yeah.
You think you're doing the right thing.
Okay, I want to see how this one is. Yes, we're good now. All right, so whew, this is pretty much my parts bin here. This is my transmission pan. It's much easier when you have a place where you could set the stuff down and like bolts and stuff. I got your bolt right here. I didn't even ruin it. Good thing I heated it, because man, if I didn't heat it and I just tried to pull it out the way it was,
right. No can do.
It's already stripped a tiny bit, and that's enough to just cause the rest of it. Yeah. It would be a pain. So now, if I'm lucky, these things are rubber. If I'm lucky, the plug is going to be here somewhere.
For the torque converter.
Am I lucky? Oh, geez, I am lucky.
All right.
Son of a gun. How did I become this lucky?
Because it's about to get to be your bedtime soon. Because it's going to be your bedtime soon.
You know, if you don't have nobody to help you with this,
it's tough, man.
To rotate the front of the engine, I would have to physically rotate it by hand.
Yeah.
And you know that engine is not easy to rotate.
No.
And it's a back-breaking work, man. It's like I had my kids monitor this, and I said, just tell me when you see this. And they got the stuff dripping on there, like, oh, no, Dad, I can't handle this anymore. And they quit on me. I'm like, come on. But this was when they were much younger.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know, I try to get them involved, because, man, that's how life is. You have to sometimes get your hands dirty.
Yep. You never hear them complain, and when they get 16 and have a car, you don't have to worry about that. Can
I ask you for one thing? Can you bring me that new 13-pin connector?
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and install it. It's just so hard to crawl in here.
Oh, it's a pain.
Yeah. It's time for me to install the 13-pin connector. And I landed it perfectly. Yay, the 13-pin connector is installed. Right. Now we have to install the hardest part, the plug. These plugs are literally hard to install. Oh, and it's done. You just have to work it a little bit.
It's hard to work with
because this installs not by plugging it in, by you twisting a plastic piece, and that has to grab it correctly and pull it forward.
Right.
So that's good. So the next thing we could do is go ahead and install this pan, and then I'm gonna drain the torque converter. So go ahead and do that. So okay, we have to clean it. Hey guys, this is a transmission pan. There is a magnet that's located over here. It is thin for a reason. So this is a new seal. We're going to go ahead and install it. When you first buy it, it's in a box. It's going to be all crunched up. Just take it out of the box, guys. Just let it sit there. and it will straighten itself out. It's really important to install a new seal every time. It does help with not having any leaks. So now, this is the filter. We're going to install it. And I'm going to wipe my hands down again. So the filter is gonna go on first. You want to make sure there's a seal here, and you find a place for it. And there's gonna be a metal location, like a hole right there. There's a plastic. So these things need to fall in alignment, and you want to make sure you want to make sure you hear that click. You heard it? Like, see how it's now nicely solid? Very important. If this filter drops down, you're gonna have some issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise the pin. And so the very first one we're gonna install is this little guy. Okay. Alright, so that kind of holds things now. I could relax a little bit, could start breathing. The very next one we want to install, it's on this side. Okay, so that's good. Now I do want to replace the cap. It goes here. I call it a cap, but that's, you know, that's a drain plug. So we're gonna go ahead and replace this one. It doesn't help if you're sweating, which I am. My sweat's going in my eyes. These are good threads. One thing for sure. Good. One more. Okay, so that may seem like I got everything tight, but it's not. That's what it seems like. Because I'm using a Torx and it basically stops, so things are still quite loose. You want to make sure you tighten everything. You don't want to over tighten it. These transmissions, they have very weak threads. It's so easy to ruin them. So you have to be very, very careful. So that is good. Laying on rucks ain't no fun. So don't try that. If you learn anything from this video, take that one home. rocks. It's not a good massage, to say the least. Guys, believe me when I tell you this, this bolt is one of the easiest to lose. So just gonna be very careful. I'm gonna do it by hand, and make sure I hold it just like so. So now that's the way you drain the torque converter. Lucky me that the bolt happened to be right there. So that's a very good thing. Torque converter holds close to 4 quarts in there. Same thing in a pan, about 4. But really, in between the lines and in the valve body and stuff like that, there's about another quart. So there's a total like 9. So when you drain everything like this, there's still going to be about possibly half a quart left over between all the residue and some lines, transmission coolant lines and stuff, having it. So when you're going to pour new transmission fluid in, which will come through this pipe, any overfill that will happen will actually get forced out of here. And it's not a big problem. If that happens, don't worry, you just poured a little too much. So it will simply just, that's a weak spot, so that's where it's gonna go. So the transmission fluid about finished leaking out. So guys, it's done draining. Little drips. So now gotta be extra careful. Make sure I align everything perfectly. The last thing I want is to lose this bolt inside of one way. Not feeling any tension. That's really weird. Okay, now it's tight. Okay, good. That's weird. I thought it was not tightening nothing. So now, by the way, guys, see this line? This is the line that's actually coming from the very top of your engine where the fuel injectors are. So if you have diesel leaking out of the return fuel line, that's where it's going to leak out of. So just in case you guys are wondering about that. Now, if your transmission has these covers, great, reinstall them. You need to replace the transmission fluid here. So every single transmission cover, this is where the dipstick is located. They're usually broken off, these tabs. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to push it in, catch it from the back, save it. Now you could pull this transmission cover off. Right, guys, we have already replaced everything with the transmission. We drained everything, so now we basically have to replace the fluid. So I basically use a funnel like this. It's a very inexpensive funnel. This is a slow process, so you're just gonna have to pour in about 8 quarts, and then on the 9th you just have to use a little bit of it, or maybe just leave it at 8. That is if you drained the torque converter as well, just like I did. So we're just gonna pour it slowly like this, and once we pour all of it in, we're just gonna basically cycle through all the gears, with the keys turned in second position. Not started yet, but just kind of cycle through all the gears and just, let the transmission use this fluid up and start shifting. Then turn it on and basically do the same thing. This particular one, it's a correct type of fluid. This is Valvoline full synthetic ATF plus 4. So basically this is the right stuff. So far it's 2. I have poured 8 quarts total, and the 9th I only poured about the 3rd of the can. I was gonna do about half, but I'm going to leave it up to the actual measuring stick. But I think actually right now this is actually a perfect amount. If I left it alone, I didn't measure anything, this would be fine, especially if you don't have a measuring stick. Now if I pour a little bit too much, let's say I pour 9 quarts, okay? And this would be extra. All this transmission fluid, which is basically leak out at the weakest point on the transmission through the transmission dipstick, where it goes inside of the transmission at the very top. So it's gonna make a big puddle on the you know, on your floor. If you have a concrete pad, it's gonna be very annoying. Gravel might be less annoying, but it's gonna create a spot, and I don't want that to happen. So basically we're gonna go with this and then add as we need to. That is the purpose of having the transmission dipstick.
My name is Serge Zimaleta. I'm 37 years old, and yes, I experienced success after buying my first home for cash. Back in 2011, I was broke, but I learned to solve problems on my own. Now I'm helping others to solve their problems. I know what pitfalls to avoid to stay profitable in business. Need motivation to be more successful in your life? Do you have Sprinter expedite or business problems? Then subscribe. Let's find creative solutions to your problems. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my helpful videos.